Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from What Culture Comics, again joined by Zoe.
Still Zoe.
Because it's a lovely Thursday here in the sunny old United Kingdom, and that means on Wednesday that the comics came out, and we thought we'd talk to you about some lovely comics, because this week was a big week for comics. I had a big old stack from your local pull list. I actually had loads of different things. Just going to bring it here, just going to awkwardly fumble around while I get it from the... Oh god, there we go. Right, so I got Legion of Superheroes, I got Daredevil, and I also got New Mutants, and I also got, that's it. That's all I got. Oh no, I got Lois Lane as well, so there we go. And I thought there was some really, really cool topics that we found within all these different comics this week. So I thought we'd basically just go into detail and talk about some of the coolest things, and I wanted to start off by talking about Legion of Superheroes, because this has kind of been one of the most anticipated books from DC this year. Bendis has been basically doing everything again. He just
Everything
doesn't
he wants
stop.
to.
It was the same thing at Marvel. I remember when he was doing like Spider-Man and Avengers and everything, and he kind of really just concerns me. I hope you're okay, Brian, because like it's a lot of work for any one man to do. But anyway,
Big old Brian.
Legion of Superheroes kind of picks up its new, fresh take on the Legion, probably the umpteenth bajillion take on the Legion that we've had.
But an interesting one.
But one that makes sense as well, which is pretty nice. And one thing I have to clarify here, first of all, is that Ryan Sook's art in this story is absolutely phenomenal. It's absolutely gorgeous. Every single Legionnaire just looks brilliant, and I love the designs for all of them. And considering my only real knowledge of the Legion comes from backwater Wikipedia entries and then the Justice League cartoon, I'm getting an education right now, which is pretty cool.
A process.
But yeah, we basically link it with the Legion in the 31st century, as you usually do with any Legion comic, and we basically get the big bombshell that Aquaman's trident has basically survived all this long, despite the fact that the Earth has no oceans, and it's basically just a bunch of biodomes in space being anchored together by one weird gravitron pump thingy.
It's such a casual reveal, like, oh, and yeah, by the way, the Earth's just like completely messed up.
Yeah.
Don't think about that. Here's Aquaman's trident.
Yeah, what did you think of the issue overall? Because I actually really I think Bendis has a tendency this year to overwrite everything. I think dialogue can be a little bit like, not necessarily tedious, because I think he does have a handle on getting everyone's voice right, but sometimes it can just be like, why is everyone talking like they're in that kind of MCU style, awkward improvisation awkwardness? It's kind of really awkward.
I think obviously the issue is because I think Bendis is writing for people who aren't necessarily super well versed in the Legion of Superheroes, because gosh dang, does it get wild, confusing, wild quick. And because they have to explain it to Superboy, because he can't just rock up and be like, I know all of this. I know that the world is now just like Gotham's another planet. We're just hanging out.
Planet Gotham is great. You see that in the first few pages of the issue, and I'm like, the idea of an entire planet that is Gotham sounds amazing
I
to
hope
me.
it's just Batman.
Yeah, just all
Batmans.
Batman, because they do mention that there have been multiple Batmen to Jonathan Kent, who is the new Superboy in this issue, which kind of, again, I think, DC have ummed and ahed on whether or not make Batman Beyond continuity. We had that issue, that series that came out in 2011, which was meant to be continuity, and then it wasn't, and they've had all sorts of different things every now and then, but hopefully this is the final say on the matter, and Batman Beyond does actually factor into this universe in some way, as we saw in Legion of Superheroes Millennium.
I'm also hoping, because the Justice League did kind of suggest that like he was probably not an alternate universe, but it's still very much something that's up in the air.
Yeah.
Speaking of up in the air.
Oh wow, what a transition.
I try my best. So another little dose of X-Men news. We got X-Force today, yesterday, which is one of the umpteenth like new X-Men things coming out. It's getting interesting keeping track, especially because at the end of X-Force, Professor X gets shot, which was not what I was expecting from the first issue of X-Force.
This is kind of wild, because I've been trying to pick up every single issue, #1 from Dawn of X.
You've been fighting the good fight.
Yeah, I don't want to like go and read. I'm not going to stick with all these series. Obviously, I just wanted to kind of get a flavour for different things, so that when I'm trade waiting, I can actually pick up the series that I really want to. And the ones that have really stood out to me so far have been obviously the main X-Men series, Marauders, and Excalibur. But X-Force, even though I really love Benjamin Percy, I loved his Green Arrow. Like, that is just such a great rebirth title. You should definitely check it out if you haven't already. X-Force, I feel as though after I read Rick Remender's stuff, I was like, I've had enough X-Force now, but
I'm good with the X-Force.
How was the issue?
So it's incredibly good, but obviously it raises really interesting questions, because when Xavier gets shot, everyone's like, oh no, he's dead, and it's like, but we have these special eggs, and it's interesting.
Golden Balls. Oh, doesn't he change his name in Excalibur? He's just going by something different.
Can I blame him? Not really, but
Golden
interestingly.
Balls is the most important X-Man ever of all time.
He deserves it, I tell you what. But Benjamin Percy actually said in an interview in the New York Comic Con, he said, something is going to happen at the end of X-Force 1 that will ripple across all the X titles and leave you in pain and wonder. So just wait for that final page.
Pain and wonder are my two default emotions, so that's not too surprising. But
it's interesting because if he was just coming back completely regular, everything's fine again, Pain and Wonder would be replaced with like, oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah, because
he's alive again.
Have you tried using any of the little ciphers that they got given? I don't know if you've picked up any of the X-Force or X-Men Dawn of X titles, but my comic book store gave me a little cipher thing that Marvel are doing where you can decipher secret messages.
And a tinfoil hat, just in case.
But I do remember in House of X and Powers of 10, they mentioned that Xavier had been transferred. There was something to do with, there was an allusion to the rebirth process and how people have been transferring consciousness and stuff. So I'm curious to see what might happen there if when X dies, rather, maybe something else goes on in the process.
I mean, there's limitless potential. Either something goes wrong, something changes. I mean, we've seen with further issue covers that it's likely that he comes back, but we don't know if he comes back right, which is the crucial issue, or whether he comes back and he's like, you know what? Why don't we just go do a war? Why don't we just actually kill everyone? I'm fine with that. So I think there's a lot of potential for that.
Yes, but that wasn't the only thing that you picked up.
That wasn't the only thing, because of all the comics I expected to have huge news, Yondu #1 was not the comic.
Have you seen his grill? Have you literally seen his teeth? They're absolutely incredible.
Anyone who hasn't seen it, please check out Yondu's new Bad Boy gold grill, because it's brought me life, it's brought me joy, much like the discovery of the Herald's Urn, which is this new artifact, literally never heard of it before, has never existed before as far as I know, which is supposed to be on par with the Infinity Stones. So,
That's just casual, just throwing that in Yondu #1, Marvel.
Just in Yondu #1, yeah. Oh, by the way, this might be one of the most powerful things in the entire universe. Yondu's got it now. That's cool.
So he's got it. So what is this? Is this like an MCU-ification of Yondu in a way? Or?
It's unclear, because he's definitely more edgy than he is in the MCU. They haven't taken away some of his grit, which I do very much appreciate. But I do think that this Herald's Urn thing it does seem like, a lot of the MCU plots revolve around trinkets and whatnot. MacGuffins and the sort. So I do think it's sort of a clever way of being like, this might show up in the MCU.
It's not a very threatening name, is it? The Heralds.
Well, when you think about the Heralds of Galactus.
I was going to say, is it connected to the Heralds of Galactus?
I can only presume so. We don't know yet. It's literally just rocked up, like glowing green, and that's all we know.
If they make Yondu a Herald, I'll be like, that makes my video already irrelevant in the space of 2 months.
But also worth being irrelevant.
Yeah,
but I'm very excited to see what happens with that, because it's just been thrown into the universe, and unless it turns out to be a complete actually it doesn't do anything useful, I'm thrilled to see sort of what wild shenanigans our favourite blue man can get up to.
Exactly. But moving on to my other favourite non-blue man, I made that link work. I want to talk about Daredevil, because I love Chip Zdarsky. He's just the best. He's great. I think everything he does I've really, really loved, whether it be Marvel 2-in-1 or Spectacular Spider-Man or Spider-Man Life Story, which we kind of covered in the past here at What Culture Comics. But his run on Daredevil, I feel as though, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, because I kind of live in my own echo chamber on social media, but I've not really seen many people talking about his Daredevil, and I think that might be because, when people pick up Daredevil, they think, oh, it's Daredevil, of course it's going to be good, because the series has such a legacy of amazing talent on it, whether it be, Miller back in the 80s, or Bendis, or Brubaker, or Mark Waid and Chris Samnee more recent years. And yeah, so I think you pick up Daredevil, the expectation is that you're going to get a great comic. But in issue 12, which came out a few weeks ago, we had what I would say was probably my favorite comic moment of the year, where Wilson Fisk literally just snaps after trying to go legitimate. And I would thoroughly recommend that you guys pick this up if you haven't already. It's a fantastic kind of read, and Daredevil #13 really picks up on all the strengths that we've seen Zdarsky and artist Cicchetto actually do, and the covers by Julian Tedesco are also absolutely stunning. There's one for the next issue 14, which is just absolutely incredible, and it kind of keeps blowing me away. The quality of this book, especially how they draw Elektra. It kind of reminds me of the Bill Sienkiewicz Elektra from the Elektra Assassin book that he did with Frank Miller a while ago. And yeah, I'm really impressed by it. And this issue kind of has Wesley coming into Winston Wolfe a situation after Fisk basically loses his cool and brutally snaps a man into many different pieces because he keeps making fun of him. Yeah, what did you think of this issue?
It's one of those things, because like you said, with Daredevil, you're like, oh, it was a good comic. Yeah, of course it was a good comic. It's Daredevil. But at the same time, I think it's so interesting to go a different way with Kingpin, because my theory as to why it's also not that well covered is because people are so focused on the television series still. I think it's interesting to go a different way, where we have a Kingpin that kind of doesn't want to be the big scary crime lord anymore, but he's like, I've spent years killing people, and now when people are mean to me, I want to kill people. And I think it's a very interesting way to develop him without it being like, and then he's just a good guy.
Yeah, and it's a great moment as well that you can feel just his anger just bubbling and bubbling until it just spills over in this absolutely awful mess of violence. And the way they actually handle the fallout in this comic I thought was really, really clever. And also I'm loving the story, the backup story of Detective North as well. He's kind of been brought onto the NYPD to basically form a part of Fisk's vigilante task force. He has it out for Daredevil until he has an encounter with Spider-Man and basically begins to reappraise his own approach to vigilantism. And the issue ends with him and Daredevil basically forming, well, it alludes to them forming a pact of sorts, and I quite like that idea. You know, this series is so introspective, and it's, you know, it keeps on finding new angles with the character, whether that be, you know, the idea of, you know, an unintended consequence of superhero violence being, you know, death and other sort of things as well. And I just really, really love seeing Fisk in a more vulnerable light. It reminds me more of, like, you know, what Vincent D'Onofrio did in the first season of Daredevil, which was really, really good.
I like it for that sense of, we've always seen with comics and in films, you know, oh, the bad guy kills this guy and he goes down, and then we never sort of see the sort of awkward cleanup afterwards, where it's like, I'm gonna need to phone someone because there's a dead man in my bathroom and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I thought it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm here for a gentle, fragile Kingpin.
It is, it's really good, and I'm very much excited to see where this series goes. I would thoroughly recommend that everyone go check it out, because even though we all love the X-Men here at What Culture, please just go check out Daredevil, because he's my favourite boy at Marvel. He's just great, so yeah, please go check him out. But yeah, please let us know what you thought of this week's comics down in the comments below. I nearly called the comments the comics, which would have made no sense whatever. Anyway, please be sure to let us know your thoughts on all your comics. What did you read? Let us know, and please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss any upload going forward. You can find more sorts of news lists and articles like this at whatculture.com/comics. You can find me on Twitter at Ewan Things. You can follow Zoe on Twitter at
Zemescale.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.